Shadow War Alpha Issue 1, Joshua Williamson writing with Victor Bogdanovich on the art. This is it's not quite, well, it's kind of a one-shot, because the second part will be called...
See what you did there. One shot.
But, yeah, this is the start of the Shadow War crossover event.
This is issue 1 of an event, of a crossover. But they're doing that alpha branding.
Yeah, but the title of the book is just issue 1, and there's not going to be an issue 2.
Yeah, no, I know. But yeah, so this is the culmination, or not culmination, but Williamson starting, like, pulling threads together from the 3 things he's been working on, Robin, Deathstroke Inc., and Batman. So it's cool to know that he had an idea in mind, and this is where it's going. And it went places that I kind of suspected, but not this quickly. So that's I will say I was pleasantly surprised by this. Not that I was thinking it was going to be bad, but yeah,
I think there was an element of, all these books are tied into this crossover. It was like, I need to read Deathstroke Inc. Like there was definitely a feeling. I mean the issues that are in the crossover, Matt, not the issues.
Oh
before.
Yeah. Sorry.
You're shaking your head at me as if I didn't mean that. I meant
gotcha.
Just the issues in the crossover.
And I want to give Williamson credit too, because, like, sure, it's better if you've been reading everything, but I really feel like if you just pick this up,
this works. Yeah,
he did a good job at this being a jumping on point.
But that's not why I'm pleasantly surprised, though. I'm pleasantly surprised because I actually think, and I think this is maybe something I'm learning with Williamson, is that he's very hit and miss, and I think he misses when he's spinning wheels or when he's not allowed to really go anywhere. This issue works because there's actually something big that happens that is propelling the story, and I think there's a good job of setting up some key character beats that pay off later in the issue. The book starts with Razzle Gill, and he's like monologuing about being the demon, but then the sort of not quite the joke transition, but he's actually standing in the bathroom being kind of sick, and he's an old man and he's dying. And then he thinks that there's a fight going on, but then it turns out that it's just Talia and Robin sparring. It's just them
they're bonding.
Yeah, they're bonding,
weird.
Yes. And Raz smiles. He's like, my family, look at my sweet daughter and my grandson.
both who have body counts longer than the FBI most wanted list.
Yeah, so it's kind of this odd thing where they're finally bonding, and Damian even says, I'm the son of the Bat. And she's like, maybe you should call yourself my son. It'd be more impressive to people. And then, like, sort of outthinks him for a moment. And it's actually kind of this sweet family bonding sequence that is sort of overshadowed with, like, Raz, like, dying and him, like, coughing up blood. And they don't see this, but he's kind of, like, looking down and smiling, but he's got this lingering presence over him. So it's really neat. And then we see Batman taking out some criminals in Gotham. One bad guy is, like, kidnaps some parole or parolees.
So it's this like, I remember from the animated series, but the character named Lockdown, who basically is just an evil cop.
Yeah, I can't say I remember this character. Yeah.
So I just remember Lockdown. I remember the toy when I was a kid. But yeah, so he takes people that were released, but that's not good enough. So he's like this lawful evil type guy.
Yeah, he's basically trying to enslave parolees because he still sees them as criminals. So Batman saves the day. But then Oracle's like, hey, Batman, might want to, turn the news on in those those bat goggles you've got on. And the big sort of event that is happening here is that Ra's al Ghul, along with Talia, are turning themselves into authorities for everything they've done. And, we see people talking about it references Checkmate, and I sort of... The editors though said, as if you missed the events of Checkmate, and I'm like, I think you'll find I did.
So which I did like too, because you didn't need any of that, even though I did read all that, right? Just that this Leviathan stole Talia's name. At the end, Talia's made it her mission to reclaim Leviathan, and he handled it pretty well here. I also did like that when Talia confronts Raz, she's like, I'm not turning myself in, you can. So I thought that was a fun wrinkle.
Yeah, it does that shock reveal where Batman reacts to it. But then it cuts back to when Raz is trying to convince Talia to do this, and Raz is basically saying something to the effect of, we have tried with violence for centuries to change the world, and it's not working. So we're going to try to do something different. I'm going to try it this way. So the issue kind of then revolves around like Raz's condition for turning himself in is that he got to speak on TV before he went in. So there's going to be this big press conference, and Batman is on the rooftops. It's in Washington D.C. at the Markovian embassy, which is where he's turned himself in. And do you know what? I think this was quite effective, where Batman looks over his shoulder. The full page reveals that Damian's on the opposite rooftop, and he's like, "Father," and he's like, "Damian," and it's this like sort of moment where, because Damian and Batman have barely seen each other in a while.
It's been a while since I've seen them even reference each other.
Yeah, ever since Alfred died, Damian went off and did his own crappy Teen Titans thing. But then obviously in the Robin book, he's been flying solo. He's interacted with some of the Bat family, but not Batman. And I love Oracle saying, "Bruce, hug your damn son," like over the comms, and Bruce not doing it. And they're both up here just to monitor the situation and try and keep an eye on things. And Raz makes his speech and talks about basically he wants to reveal the secret of the Lazarus into the world for science to do with what they want with and make a difference to the world, because he wants to save the people in the world as well as the world itself. He wants to stop killing people, and he's seen the value in humanity. And just as he's doing this, and it sets up the threat as well that a lot of people who have worked with Raz over the years probably won't want him speaking about what he's done and what they've done.
Good guys and bad guys.
Yeah.
So it opens it up to that too. That it's not just, who you would think that want to take Raz out.
So kind Ambassador Ra's al Ghul is just finishing his speech, and then there's a 2-page spread of him getting shot in the head. That's the big event of this issue, is that Ra's al Ghul has been assassinated on live TV.
And so you're just like, oh, well, there's Lazarus pits. He's not done. And
you're skipping ahead. You're skipping ahead. Before we even get to that, like, it looks like Deathstroke, right? So you get to.
I didn't know if you wanted to reveal that quite yet.
Yeah. So you get Deathstroke, and Batman's like Deathstroke, and Damian's yelling grandfather. And I think one of the things that's so effective here is that they did a good job of giving you this sweet moment of Raz looking down at his daughter and grandson, and like just looking over them fondly, so that when he gets killed later in the issue, it hits harder. It's like, oh no, it gave us a little bit of Raz's humanity, and then he tries to do this good thing as well. So there's this double thing here.
And through Robin, we had seen like this new version of Raz who was kind of sent out, and we kind of didn't realize why until the end of that Robin story. Found out that he was dying, and he's trying to make peace. And he finally does, and it's his last act, right? He's trying to make peace with the world and his family. It's all taken from him with a shot of a sniper's bullet.
Yeah, and obviously there's more shots. I think Tally gets hit in the shoulder. Yeah. Cameron Chase is like trying to like organize people on the ground. This Deathstroke sets off, and I say this Deathstroke because obviously later, but we'll get there.
Which, if you remember me rambling about the Justice League early on, there was a team of fake Deathstrokes running around.
I really don't, but
yeah. So
but
that plays into to this too, I'm sure.
This Deathstroke sets off some explosions, and there's these grenades that are on basically they're grenades, but he's got like a detonator to set them off. A timer. Yeah. Rather than just them going off when they land. And there's a grenade right next to the dead body of Ra's al Ghul, and Damian runs in to go and save him, and the timer on the grenade's counting down, and Batman, full page spread, jumps in and grabs Damian to save him from the explosion as he's saying, "Father, no please." And there's a few pages here of Batman holding Damian as he's crying. The fire, they see the explosion outside the building. You see the hug, the big full page. Damian's punching Batman, saying, "Why? I could have saved him. Why didn't you let me save him?" And Bruce says, "Because you're my son." And it's this moment where he chose to save Damian over saving the body of Raz.
Right.
And what's so effective about this is, again, it set up that moment where they first see each other again, and Bruce wouldn't hug him. So here, after the death of Ra's al Ghul, he holds Damian and hugs him. And I know and without saying it, I made my choice. I saved you instead. And it's this super dramatic moment. It plays off really well because of everything the issue set up. And then it goes into, deeper stuff where Damian says, I was going to tell you about everything I've done recently. It's almost like Damian was building up to like reconnecting with his father. And he was going to tell him about the Lazarus tour. He was going to tell him about Flatline. There's maybe a girlfriend on the horizon. He was going to tell him all these things. And then he's like, but then you just, like, what did he say to him? He says, because of you, I have lost 2 grandfathers because of your choices. And then Batman, without thinking, the Muppet that he is, says, if I was the one there, I would have saved Alfred. And then, good art here, Bogdanovich here, the reaction is perfect. Because, Damian just gives him this look and walks off through the smoke and the fire. And he's like, Damian, I didn't mean. He's like, yeah, you just said you weren't good enough to save Alfred. I would have saved Alfred. That is effectively what you just said to him. You've just given the kid this guilt.
And it lands, because that is something Bruce would say, right? And trying to teach a lesson is...
And the sad part is that part of me thinks, yeah, if you were in that room, I sort of believe that Alfred would have survived. Like, that you would have found a way.
Right, because if I remember right, in that King run, it was an impulsive move by Damian, Yeah.
He said something, he goaded him into it almost,
Yeah. So, again, it's not untrue. It's just, as an adult, you have to phrase things differently. And he got hate in the moment, and
to be fair, as much as we had problems with how that was handled in that Batman book, it's very in character for Damian to run his mouth, and there to be consequences because of that.
Yeah, and I mean, those consequences have lasted, right? Like, Alfred's been gone for how long now, and this is kind of it's a central character moment for Damian. Yeah, and he carries this guilt with him.
Yeah, and that next page is Damian saying, I'm going to go after Deathstroke, and I'm going to bring him in dead or alive. Like, that panel of him walking away is Batman's he's just retreated into silhouette, effectively, in the fire. That is a wonderful panel. It shows you how alienated they are from each other right in this moment.
Yep.
And he says he's going to do it with or without his help. Talia has been taken to a Lazarus pit, and she says, no, get me some doctors. I'm not using the Lazarus pit.
Nope.
That's because she knows that it was poisoning her father by the end. I don't know, or if it's just because she's trying to live by like what he was trying to do at the end. Although it doesn't really seem like it, because she then calls in like all the assassins to.
Yeah. So my take on it is there's a madness that when you go into the Lazarus pit, right, and just her being near death, not total, that it would have been wasted.
She wants to keep her anger.
She wants to keep her anger. Someone needs to plan this revenge plot. And if she's lost her mind from dipping in the pit, she's no use.
Oh yeah, because she's definitely not taking up this pacifism that Raz was preaching, because she calls in all the assassins and is like, "Hey, we're going to hunt down Deathstroke and anyone who's close to him." So it's all of a sudden you're like, "Oh shit!" So you got Respawn, you got Ravager, you got all these characters now that we care about. They're in trouble. Well, we don't care about Respawn necessarily yet, but you know what I mean.
Well, no, but then you also have all the cannon fodder of this trust group that Deathstroke's taken over. And again, anyone that's worked with him, who does that mean? Deathstroke's been a hero at points, and is this going to be at war with the superhero community in general?
We should also not gloss over here that Talia's got a new outfit here. It's like Talia mixed with the sort of color scheme and outfit that Raz would normally wear. So it's like she's embodying her father in this outfit. It's a really nice touch. She's picked
up the mantle, which I love, because a couple months back now, we were gearing up for the Batman movie, and I was just wondering where people's thoughts were on their favorite villains. And when I was putting my list together, it was hard to put Raz and not also include Talia, because I just feel they just work together. And so now, her assuming that mantle of the Demon's Head, she's Ra's al Ghul now. I think that was a real cool move by Williamson.
Yeah, no, I really like that touch. And then it cuts to Deathstroke Inc. headquarters. And I've not been reading that, but it doesn't take a lot to get that the people he's working with are suddenly like, shit, like, Deathstroke just assassinated Ra's al Ghul. Yeah. Like, what are we going to do? They're going to be coming for us. And of course, and this wasn't a surprise, I think it was very obvious to me throughout the whole sequence that there's this assumption that they just take it for granted that really is Deathstroke. So when this guy walks into Deathstroke and says, "Hey, what did you do?" And he's like, "What are you talking about?" He's like, "Turn on TV, you just assassinated Ra's al Ghul." And he's like, "Wait, that's not me. I've not worn that outfit in years." So all of a sudden, it's like Deathstroke is innocent in this, and he's going to have Robin, the League of Shadows, everyone's coming after him for this, and that's the cliffhanger, is that one of the assassins with all the ninjas is here to take him on. So, and it says to be continued in Batman 122 next week. So this should be nice, quickly paced, because we're going to get like an issue a week, basically.
Yep.
It's spread out across all the books, so that's kind of nice. I have to say, I went into this event just kind of like, whatever, I'm sure it'll probably be fine. I actually really liked this first issue. I like the death of Razzle Gill. I thought it had a lot of impact. Now, admittedly, yes, it's comics, so he'll probably be back within like 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, he'll be back in 3 or 4 pieces. Like, there might be multiple Razzle Ghouls going around.
Yeah. I will say, Bogdanovich, I do really like as an artist, and I think the art throughout the book is really, really strong. There is a couple of panels here or there where some of the details a bit lacking. It was almost like, just because it's a longer issue, it's like 45 pages or something like that. Just to get it on time, I suspect that some panels maybe suffered a little bit from just the detail being stripped back. But by and large, it does look really nice. He's a very detailed artist. I think the coloring's really strong. Like I say, it handles the different moments, like the heartwarming of Raz looking down at his sparring like offspring is kind of sweet, and it's got this moody kind of nice natural coloring to it. But then it turns sinister when the shadow of his illness comes in. Later on, I talked about the alienation of Bruce and Damian and how that is done with the coloring and the art. So there's a lot of nice, really good touches in the art. Obviously, with the nature of this crossover event is that we're going to have different artists all over the whole thing. Yep. So who's to say what it's going to be like going forward? But I do think that they handle the moment well, and that the Deathstroke being innocent and falsely accused of this, mixed with Damian being on a warpath, I think Damian's character growth is probably going to be the most interesting thing to track through this, and it's been what's made his book really strong. So I'm excited for that too. So
yeah,
honestly, I'm quite positive on all this.
So like we knew what the stakes were with Raz, right? Because we knew he was sick, and going into this, I didn't think that they were gonna assassinate him in the first issue, right? Like I figured,
gotta start with a bang, Matt.
Yeah, and for sure it was a legit shock. Like when I turned that page, because you always think like, oh, sniper, like someone's gonna stop him, And as in the heat of the moment, I was like, what's Deathstroke doing? Like is he getting revenge on him for the whole respawn thing? And then you realize that's not Deathstroke's normal suit that he's been wearing, and so I thought that it really played itself out real well, moment by moment through that time. So yeah, it's a whole lot of fun. Like when Williamson hits, he really hits. Like I got, we've been with him from the beginning of Rebirth now, and we've seen the ups and the downs, and this is definitely on the upside.
Yeah, but I think he has as many hits as he does misses, and I think he has as many middlings as he does hits and misses. Like he really is all over the spectrum. But that's pretty good. And after issue 1 of Rogues, last week, he's in a good spot right now. I'll say that. So it's probably Williamson's best sort of overall era. I mean, assuming it lasts longer than a couple of weeks, but because for all we know, the next issue, Batman next week might completely shit the bed and ruin this. But I like the start of this at least. So
for sure,
that's cool. Can't complain. So, Matt, what are you giving Shadow War Alpha issue 1?
I'm giving this an 8.
All right. I honestly, I think I may go 8.5. I really had a good time with this. Yeah, I think I'll go a little notch higher. I like I say, I was pleasantly surprised by this. I didn't think I was going to care that much, and I ended up being really into it by the end.